Truthseeker and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen, contact, time loss, vision.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the Truth Seeker podcast.
Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly. Dark savage.
Streaming live at truthseeker.com.
She's not a Christian.
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark sided stuff.
And now, your host, Truth Seeker.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? I'm your host, Truth Seeker, and now we're tuned in to another exciting episode of the Truth Seeker podcast. Got a very special guest tonight. Tonight I'm going to be speaking with someone who I've been looking up to for years, ever since I became a Christian, since I came into the faith back in '98. And I remember sitting with a bunch of friends, watching MTV, getting high, sitting on the couch, getting stoned, and just flipping through the channels, and landing on this channel with these guys playing heavy metal music, jumping around on stage and stuff like that. It's awesome music. We're watching it for a minute. We're high out of our minds, smoking pot, and all of a sudden this guy runs up to the TV and points at the camera and says, "Hey, you. Yeah, you sitting there with the joint in your hand. I want to tell you, Jesus loves you." And then he runs off, and I'm like, whoa. I'm sitting there holding the joint. This is back in like 1998. And come to find out, it was a television show on the Christian station called G-Rock. And one of the bands they were playing right before that little video came on was a song, Pipe Dreams, I believe it was, by Project 86. I'm joined with Andrew Schwab from the band Project 86. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
G-Rock days, man.
Yeah. How silly.
But that was awesome for, you know what I'm saying, back in the day for you guys. That was like y'all's MTV though, man, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally remember those days. That's hilarious.
So, dude, your music early on was about not compromising your faith, standing for what you believe in, the struggles that we go through as believers, but in a very poetic form, put to where of a lot of artistic allegories and metaphors and things like that within the music, man, was just in like a beautiful way. I got a couple questions here I wanted to ask you. Dealing with the music, did you get a lot of backlash from like the church community? Like you weren't Christian enough because it wasn't just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus every line, but those who understood what you were talking about, man, like it like, you know what I'm saying, really hit home for them.
Yeah, I think, you know, because of the nature of the style of music, you know, it's aggressive music, that in and of itself sort of eliminated the sort of commercial Christian audience for the most part. However, we were fortunate and, you know, right place, right time to be sort of on the forefront of a few really major, I don't know, movements in popular culture, I guess. One being just Christianity in general being sort of a pop cultural phenomenon in the mid to late 90s. And then also, playing the style of music that we played, that whatever you want to call what it was back then. We were sort of on the forefront of a lot of bands. Actually, not a lot of bands, of a few bands that were actually taking something from the sort of underground thing that was this sort of self-contained, faith-based music culture, and bringing it to a larger audience. And so in that sense, we were able to sort of access a larger audience, I think, than just heavy music would by itself at that time. So I think that, there was definitely a discussion surrounding bands like us at that time, because, Christian culture in general is always a little bit behind, if not a lot bit behind, the culture at large. And truthfully, we were glad to be a part of a greater discussion, because we felt like one of our motivations in starting a band, one of my motivations in wanting to put a band together, was to sort of challenge a stereotype that, being a person of faith and believing something that is inherently uncool and lame and not rock and roll, can someone who believes in these inherently uncool things make art that is cool, or that is good or current or relevant, or whatever word you want to use. And so that was kind of, the goal of the band, is to be, a legitimate band in every single way, but also sort of have this sort of real life perspective and honesty about being a person with a faith-based background. So
that's what, like, you just said about the Christian scene being a few years behind. For some, in some circles, they say Christian music is 7 years behind whatever's happening in the mainstream. I think that's changing a lot now, but definitely back in the day, we totally can see that, especially with the Christian hip hop back in the day. But so for that being behind, the kind of style that you guys were doing in Project 86 in the early days, there wasn't other bands that you sounded like, oh, these are the Christian Limp Bizkits, or these are the Christian Korn. Obviously, if you're into that genre, it's going to kind of fit in, but it was still something original to about what you were bringing to the table with the art form of, as far as like being very poetic. You know what I'm saying? So what would you say about the creativity in the early ages of like just being original and standing out as separate?
Well, I think whenever you embark on a creative journey, so to speak, it's in the early stages, a really large part of that process is finding your voice, and defining your voice. So a lot of artists don't ever do that, but if you take your craft seriously, that has to be made a big priority. And that was a big priority for me and for our band, is to have, our own sound, not just sound like our influences, or not, for me as a songwriter or a lyricist, not just write like ABC guys that I looked up to, who were frontmen. So just try to be myself within the songwriting process. And what came out naturally for me was just pictures with words, essentially, more like a stream of consciousness kind of approach, where I'm just connecting with the music and just writing phrases and words that come out of me with, maybe on a loose theme, or with a general point in mind, or in reflection to some sort of life circumstance, but really just getting out feelings in the forms of words. And so as much as there's a direction and a purpose with a lot of the songs that Project 86 we have released over the years, the starting point is always an emotion rather than like some sort of message. And I think hopefully that's what established the band as having our own unique approach.
You guys are coming up on the 20-year anniversary from some of the early stuff. Is it the Drawing Black Lines 20-year anniversary, or is it the first album?
The 20-year anniversary of the band was last year.
The band,
The
okay.
20-year anniversary of the first album is next year.
Next year.
2018.
And you're about to release some tour dates that you're going to be touring off of the music from the first two albums as far as the majority goes?
Well, we actually just this previous year we did a 20th anniversary tour, U.S. only, and then we have been in the midst of a Pledge Music campaign that's really stretched over a long period of time. It's almost finished now, for our 10th album, which is for our 20-year anniversary.
Okay.
And as a part of that, we released a 5-song EP that was all influence material. I don't like the word cover, but they're cover songs essentially. To me, a cover song is you're essentially just trying to emulate the original, and these are our own interpretations of songs that have, been influential, or artists who've been influential to us over the years. So on that EP, we covered or reinterpreted songs like "Sabotage" from the Beastie Boys.
Oh, yeah.
We did "Fell on Black Days" by Soundgarden. We did "Facet Squared" by Fugazi, "Man of Constant Sorrow," and "Strange Fruit" by Billie Holiday. So it's kind of an eclectic mix of songs, but it was fun to record them. And then the new album is 10 songs. We're just finishing up the last touches, the recording, and starting the mix process. And that will be out late this year to the public, and a little sooner than that to our Pledge Music people. If you want to still get on board, you the listener, shameless plug, with our Pledge Music campaign. It's still active for a short period of time. You can get some really unique merchandise experiences, and also get to get your hands on the music before anybody else. You can actually go on there and get immediately our 5-song EP, plus listen to 7 songs from the new album, which aren't even out yet. If you go to pledgemusic.com/project86.
Yeah, make sure you guys go over there and do that and support some of the dude, there's a lot of cool merch over there. I wish I would have got one of the early photos, dude, from the first release.
Those sold out pretty fast.
I know, man. I seen those were gone. I was like, oh man, totally wanted one of those, dude. As far as the style, starting off there, coming into the Christian music scene, they called it rapcore, right? You guys, POD, Rod Laver, Pax 217, 38th Parallel, and these were some of like the bands that pretty much rapped over metal. That type of this crazy eclectic fusion, and you know what I'm saying. Your band was in the mix of those guys. Many of those guys who were going strong back then don't exist anymore. So surviving the death of that genre, and you guys being able to kind of keep going, because I've seen some of those guys try to change the style up a little bit. I would see like 30th Parallel. I was a huge 30th Parallel fan, and then seeing them around that time, like the Christian hardcore bands started like taking over. If people wanted breakdowns, people wanted to slam dance, like that's what it was. And to see 30th Parallel singing like these beautiful melodic songs and rapping at these hardcore festivals, which they essentially turned into hardcore shows. It wasn't well received. And bands like that, Pax 217, were some of my favorites. They didn't, we seen them, I guess, kind of phase out kind of early, but you guys kept going. Your sound evolved and changed over the years and became something, a little bit of everything put together, and just kept evolving. Talk a little bit about those early years, about like all the other bands who were doing it that kind of came, but you guys kept going.
Yeah, the interesting thing was back then, which was kind of the mid-90s, that sound hadn't come around, and it was new, right? There were only a couple of bands doing it, and they were considered cool. This was before Limp Bizkit and everything that came after that. There was Deftones, there was Rage Against the Machine, and there was Orange 9mm, and there was Downset, and that was it, really. Yep. And there was a real hunger for that kind of music because it was really punk rock, you know, but it was also, it was just combining sounds that a lot of people who listen to more, you know, aggressive music loved, you know, hip hop and punk rock and hardcore and all that, you know, in one package sounded like a beautiful mixture at the time. And it was, for especially for those pioneering bands that I just mentioned. And we, you know, or I, you know, made plans to start a band that had that sound, you know, right, you know, early on. When I heard a couple of those bands play, I was like, man, you know, this is it. This is the sound. And when we released our first album, you know, we sort of landed in that realm because that's what we were shooting for. However, you know, I talked to a lot of people about the early days of the band and our early sound. Like, I didn't really rap.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like I was intending to, and it just didn't come out that way. And that was sort of a saving grace of the band. I think if it had been more rappy instead of more of like a spoken word shouty kind of thing, I don't think we would have endured. Because nu metal, as it became known, it became incredibly popular for a minute, and then it became incredibly uncool.
Yeah.
And it's still uncool, you know? And so I think we had an accurate enough perception about the scope of the music, you know, the way music was going in general, and our influences, I think, were a lot different when you boiled it down than all of those other bands. I think we were savvy enough to realize when we released Drawing Black Lines that music was going to go away pretty quickly. And so by the time we started writing music after Drawing Black Lines, we started saying, okay, what kind of band are we going to be here?
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this thing because this thing has gotten played out. And I think Limp Bizkit ruined it for everybody.
Too gimmicky, man. It turned into a gimmick, something cool.
You know, they embodied every cliche that was horrible about, you know, that genre of music. And you know, there were some other bands that came along as well that sort of ruined it for everybody else and just made it so awful. You know, we have our own smudges on our history as well, if you just go back and watch some of the old videos and things like that. But you know what? It was what it was. And I'm thankful that, you know, that movement happened because Project 86 wouldn't have existed.
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, we made a decision that we wanted to evolve into something else, into, you know, something that hopefully stayed a little bit more relevant. And I think the priority that we placed on having our own sound early on in the band is the other thing that sort of saved us. And so, you know, we've been kind of like a, I don't know, harder rock band, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So it like wasn't a regurgitation of something that already existed. And I think that's why that and your vocal patterns and the metaphors and stuff. And I think that if you was to come out with your lyrics a little bit more blatant about Jesus or whatever, of like, cause we're kind of, you know, walking a fine line of being Christian or being corny too. So your lyrics made it in this poetic form to where, like, I think anybody could listen to it and it's like, okay, what does this mean to me? He's talking about struggle. This is the struggle that goes on within the heart of men versus the heart of Christians or whatever. So it was something that kind of reached deeper to a broader audience and was something real versus, hey, we're going to be the youth group band and play up here and play, you know, play worship music or whatever the case is. And that's, dude, and I think that speaks for the longevity of the band and those first couple albums that I still listen to this day, which are amazing. I put them on to get chills listening to that older music, man.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. And, you know, as much as I don't necessarily think our first album, you know, I think we were so young when we wrote those songs and so new as a band and so new at doing it, you know, like we hadn't really even tapped into the potential that sort of came to fruition on our second record. And I think our second record, you know, we really did something special there because we were all on the same page and we really wanted to write a certain type of album and we really wanted to prove something as a band. And we had a little bit more experience, a little bit more confidence. And I think Drawing Black Lines really paved the way for us to have a long career as a band. But I appreciate the good words, man. Like, it's been a really interesting and fun journey. And, I think people who haven't been turned on to us for quite a while would be shocked to hear that we actually have some pretty good songs on some of the more recent records.
Exactly.
And notwithstanding the album that we're planning on dropping later in the year, there's some.
Well, let me ask you about that, because I've been watching some interviews with, I know Manson and Billy Corgan did a tour recently, and I've been watching some of their interviews, and they're talking about how they have new music that they're working on, but the fans want to hear
the old stuff.
They want the old stuff, and Billy Corgan and Manson are kind of upset about it because they don't want to get up there and just play the music that you made out to in the eighth grade in the back seat or whatever, and be like the soundtrack for that.
It turns you into a cliche. It turns you into a joke, and you've played those songs 1,000 times, and it's hard to stand up there and do that. I think for Project, our biggest song as a band came out later in our career. That was Fall Goliath Fall. We got more traction with that song. If that song would have come out on our third album, we would have sold 1 million copies. Wow. Easy. It was a different time of music, but I think that we've made as good or better of songs middle and late in our career. But that's pretty rare. We just haven't had a major label push behind it, but yeah, I mean, I totally get where artists like that are coming from, but the reality is, for most artists, you have a sweet spot in your career, which is usually earlier on in your career, where your youthful angst meets your hunger.
Yeah.
And you have the passion, the drive, and the talent, and also the seemingly limitless well of inspiration to pull from. When you make albums, it's harder to write new stuff that you're excited about and still make it commercially viable to where people are going to relate to it. It's just hard, so, like, I'll be honest, Marilyn Manson's best records are behind him, probably.
Yeah.
Smashing Pumpkins' best records, and I love both of those bands, are behind them, most likely. And it's not just because of nostalgia. It's because of the fact that they made those records during a time in their lives when they were hungry. And young, and just at a place where they were capable of making those records. And I just don't know if they are capable of making those kinds of records anymore. There's a certain amount of magic that goes into that that's unexplainable.
I haven't seen Manson. I want to see Manson because of the nostalgia, right? But like, I'm watching on YouTube some of the newer concert footage, and I'm like, okay, that's Manson. I remember Manson from my childhood, and then I go back and watch the early Manson stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, these dudes were like otherworldly. Crazy. They brought something totally new, artistic to the table, the way they dressed, the way they acted, the stage performance, and he loved it, and it was thriving. Now he's just there. You know what I'm saying? And so you see a lot of bands go through that transition. A lot of rappers, the first 2 albums are the best. Everything else, whether they have other people writing for them, they're living the lavish lifestyle, or they don't have time anymore. But it just goes downhill. But some of them could still write a single, right? They know how to, do it. Not to crap on Jeremy Camp, but Jeremy Camp knows how to write a good worship song, and he knows he could keep writing them and keep dishing them out and putting them out, and they're good songs. He knows how to do it, but it's not like the early hungry, this is a part of my heart that I'm giving you type stuff,
Yeah, and after a while it kind of becomes career maintenance, you know what I mean? You're trying to please the fans, to keep paying the bills, to keep the career and the machine moving forward and all that stuff, some of that comes into play. And for me, like, I'm super thankful that there are people out there who still love my band and still support what I do. This Pledge Music campaign has gone really well.
Yeah.
A lot of people have come out of the woodwork and have ordered multiple things and experiences and merch and everything. We have a lot of work to do ahead of us in fulfilling all of it, but it'll be fun. We're just thankful, man. Like, 20 years later plus, still being able to do it, and not in such a way that we're just like holding on to it because of, again, nostalgia. It's more just the fans voting. Like, okay, do you guys want another album? Do you really want another album? Okay, we'll give you another album. All right.
Show us. Put your money where your mouth is. Show us you want another album.
Okay. We will give you another album. We will put our heart and soul into it. I will put my heart and soul into it. I will give you hopefully some songs that you will really love and really connect with as much as our other ones that you love, if not more. And I feel like we've done that. Like, when your new album comes out, you have to say, this is our best album, because of the hype train that you have to create to sell the record. I try to just let the music speak, but I really feel like we have some really good songs again on this album, ones that are memorable, that will stand out in our catalog, and the people seem to feel the same way on the Pledge Music campaign.
That's awesome.
Sorry if I'm over plugging that, but that's the only way people can listen to these songs.
Yeah, I know I've seen some stuff about the parchments on the Pledge Music as well, but I know you do commission work as well. You do t-shirt designs, and I got this from you.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Signed by one of my favorite artists and favorite lines from a song. This is from When Darkness Reigns, and for those who are listening on the audio version, this is the calligraphy parchment that Andrew did himself, and it just says, "This is the hour when truth divides." And dude, the build up on that song, and just not like, that's a statement that we live by, and it's not just me. I have a bunch of friends who are hardcore Project 86, man, and this is what we live by. We're talking about getting shirts printed up with this quote on it and everything, dude, just because it's like, man, just like, and I guess I could tell you early on, like, being a baby Christian and going to church and not really fitting in and just being different, trying to fit in but not really fitting in, looking for a voice that sounded like us, someone to say what we were thinking and to kind of get behind. Early on, dude, it was you and Sonny Sandoval from POD, man. So it's an honor to have you on the show, to talk to you, man. I've been listening to your music for years, and you're a huge inspiration to me, especially with the art form, being eclectic and bringing something different to the table and being okay with that. Because in some realms of the Christian church, it's not okay to be different. Like, you have to kind of be in this mold or whatever. And so you kind of giving us the pass to be the pass to be ourselves and speak our truth, man, and still, follow Christ, man, and do it in an expression the way he gives it to us, man. Thank you so much, dude, for everything you've done,
welcome,
brother.
Man. Thanks for appreciating it. Kind words, man. That makes my day. So appreciate everybody who's listening as well, and we'll do it again, man.
For sure. All right, brother, thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with me, man. Like I said, we'll do it again, and I got a whole bunch more questions on here, so whenever you have time, hit me up, brother. Let's do it again.
How about right when our album comes out? How about that?
We'll do it. We'll do it again, brother. I'll hold you to it, man. You know I will. We've been trying to make this happen for a long time.
Okay, Derek.
All right, brother. Bless you, man. Thank you.
Bye.
Awesome. Andrew Schwab from the band Project 86, and y'all, I'm a little nervous, man. I'm a little girl here. Just a little starstruck. I've been listening to Schwab since I was little, since I was like 17. His music is the soundtrack for my conversion experience, man, coming into the faith. And I got a caller here, and I wanted to bring him on to ask him a question, but I promise you that I'll bring you in whenever the album drops and I get him back. I promise I'll bring you on early. You can come over here and do it with me. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in a good friend of mine, Big Dave, who's on the line as well. What's up, Dave?
Man, you didn't even let me on.
What'd you say? Say it again.
You didn't even let me talk to him,
dude. He said goodbye, man. Yeah, I kept him longer than he was supposed to stay.
Oh no, man.
Yeah,
listen.
man. Dude, man.
I listen to talk radio. I listen to talk radio all the time, and I know how it goes.
Yeah.
So it was funny is when you called, you let me know he was going to be on there. So I broke my phone out and started looking up all the old project stuff that I could think of. That way I wouldn't look stupid when I come on. I didn't know anything, so
I forgot it because it was. It was like so long ago, right?
Yeah, after drawing Black Lines and Heroes, I'm ashamed to say I fell off. I ventured over to hardcore stuff, just like you said. I ventured over to Norma Jean and Blind Side and Under Oath, and I got into that stuff after. But I always, but you know what though? I have more project stuff on my phone than I do any other Christian hardcore band out there. Maybe Besides Beloved, because Beloved's my all-time
Oh yeah,
favorite.
Beloved, no doubt.
Yeah, no, that now if you get that guy on, I'm coming to your house because I'm not missing out that one. But because that's my favorite band.
Yeah.
But Project was, man. I discovered Project, and that was like my gateway.
Yeah.
To the rest of Tooth and Nail and Goatee Records.
Yep.
I mean, I was looking for Christian rock. I was looking for something other than. I love praise and worship music. I'm a praise and worship leader, have been. But man, I love that old school. When Christian rock came out back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, that changed a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could listen to secular bands and hear their influence from what could have been some of these Christian bands. That they just kind of set the standard for what Christian metal was, and you can't find that. And I haven't looked too hard because I'm old now, but that early 2000s, late 2000s, that Christian metal, that any of that Christian rock was just great. And I don't think anybody's doing it like that anymore.
Yeah, man, it's different, man, because they were hungry, like you were saying, and like bands change and albums change, and some bands come back with their second release, their sophomore effort, and they they don't even get a second one. It's not as good, man. I think a band that I could have named there with those guys is a band called These Five Down that we used to listen to a lot as well.
Oh yeah,
but their second release did not hold up to the hype, which, I'm saying, that when the first one came, man, they kind of raised the bar in Christian music. They kind of brought that raw hardcore sound, I'm saying, the new metal, the slam dancing, and all that, the 7-string guitars, drop A tuning, that kind of stuff, but their second album didn't do it. And then to see bands like PAX 217 was kind of like the rapcore stuff. Their first two albums were good, but then as rapcore was phasing out, they kind of started doing rock music, Christian rock. And it was good, but it wasn't what their fans fell in love with, and they weren't able to kind of keep going. And there's a bunch of early Christian bands that were, kind of have that same story or that same legacy.
I think I heard with Andrew Schwab, I think I heard him say, did he say that he didn't quite mean to do like rap, or what did he say? Because it sounded like he said something along the lines. That was the sound he was pursuing.
Yeah, because I'm saying, people call it rapcore, right? And it's a kind of a corny name. Hey, you guys do rapcore. They kind of want to stay away from that name. So he was just kind of talking about how he was trying to rap early on, but his vocal patterns, the way he wrote his lyrics, it wasn't rap as in hip hop, as like the way I do it. His was almost more along the lines of Rage Against the Machine, shouting these different these poetic lyrics that didn't have to rhyme. Raps have to rhyme, right? So that was the difference between like his cadence and what he was doing and what he brought to the table. So that's what he was talking about. Even though he was trying to rap, so it made it with that, with those same cadence and the melodies and the drum beats and stuff like that, but it wasn't rap as we know it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that his voice, the first thing I heard from Project, I didn't hear anything at first. I heard his voice and the way he did his vocals and how unique that sounded. And man, I loved it. I gravitated towards his sound, and I still listen. I still show strangers. Listen to this guy's voice. Listen to how he does it. And I don't think anybody did it like he did it, whether he meant to do it or not. But just, it's not screaming, it's not singing, it's almost talking aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
It's just strange to say, but he is such a unique voice, and that's it. That caught me before anything else. Before I knew they were Christian, before I knew anything about him, I heard the way he did his vocals. I'm like, man, that is the most unique, cool thing, because even Jonathan Davis, Korn. Just the way that he did the beatboxing thing, whenever like Freak on a Leash came out, that was unique. That was really cool. And you look for those unique sounds, and and he had them. Andrew Schwab just killed it, and he still has the most unique vocals. Whenever you called me before the interview, I started looking up, I'll Be a Dead Man and stuff like that, all the old stuff that I have on my phone, Pipe Dream, and I'm just like, God, his voice is so unique.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I remember early on, whenever I got saved and I was hanging around Mike Malone and, you know, Barry and, you know what I'm saying, that crew, when I first got saved, and I'm coming out of the world, huge Korn fan, huge Marilyn Manson, huge Limp Bizkit fan, and I'm asking them, okay, I want some Christian rock. Is there Christian metal bands that sound like Korn? Is there bands that sound like Limp Bizkit? And they say, yeah, okay, yeah, there's some Christian rock bands. So-and-so's got some CDs. He'll let you borrow them. And they gave me Audio Adrenaline.
Yeah,
and they were saying that, okay, you know, this is the closest we have to Korn. And they gave me Audio Adrenaline to kind of replace the Korn addiction. You know what I'm saying? And I was like let down.
Thank God.
Right?
Thank God for Tooth and Nail Records. Tooth and Nail Records. You know, then that's the one that I can remember right off the bat is Tooth and Nail, because that was the one that seemed to
Solid
attract.
State, Tooth and Nail.
Man, I don't even know if. Yeah, I don't even know who Project 86 was signed with in the beginning when they did when they did Drawing Blank Lines. I have no idea who they were with as far as a record label, but you know, I mean, that once I discovered them, I started venturing off, you know, and I found these other, you know. And he's right. It seems like that rap rock thing, it quickly turned over to hardcore. You know, within a few years,
they had to run, man. Those guys had to run. I mean, because they were doing festivals with hardcore bands, and you know how the hardcore fans are. Give us a breakdown. Yeah. Play a breakdown. You know,
give us a. we can't appreciate your amazing, you know, vocals and your good lyrics, because even their lyrics, man. I can't quote any of them right now. I did not get to brush up on this,
dude.
I've got them. I've got them on.
I played some of it earlier, and it's been a while since I've listened to some of the old project as well. But dude, that old stuff, man, those first two albums were amazing, dude. I got chills listening to it, and it just brought me back to a time where I was early in my faith, where I was vigilant, where, you know, and just reading the lyrics, and the lyrics just meaning something like totally new, just about not compromising your faith, standing for what you believe, and quoting those lyrics, and a whole sea of people. These guys are performing at Cornerstone and these huge festivals, and you got a whole sea of people being vigilant about their faith, about what they believe in, and not being ashamed of it, right? You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not popular, whatever the case is, it's not popular opinion. And Schwab and Sonny Sandoval from POD, early on, both of those guys, man, were like, that's all I listened to, man, early on.
I loved it, man. You were talking about, one thing I was going to tell him, man, he said the perfect thing, Limp Bizkit ruined rap rock.
Yeah, he did, man.
I thought that was funny that he said that, because, you know, when Limp Bizkit first came out, you're like, but you quickly realize that Wes Borland was Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
And once Wes Borland left Limp Bizkit became no more, you know, because he wrote the songs, he did the music. I mean, Wes Borland was Limp Bizkit. And I was going to tell him, and, you know, I've told you this before about our old youth pastor, Tim Mills. And the very first time I brought up Limp Bizkit to him and I showed it to him, he looked and he said, "That's Fred Durst." I'm like, "You know him?" I was all fascinated. He's like, "Yeah, man. He used to live down the street from me. Him and my brother used to hang out." And he looked at it and he said, "That's not Fred Durst." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "That's not the nerdy little kid that I grew up with. He made himself into this hip hop Limp Bizkit thing." But he kind of laughed at him, because he said, "Yeah, dude, that's not the guy that grew up down the street from me at all. That's somebody totally different." You know, so of course I've hated Fred Durst since he sat behind Aaron Lewis in Biloxi and called it Biloxi.
Yeah. I know.
At that moment, he did two things wrong. He interrupted Aaron Lewis, who was a far better musician than he is, and then he called it Biloxi instead of Biloxi. I'm like, dude, you just did two strikes right there. And it's like, no, that you know, at that point I was like, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah, well, you kind of got to give it to him a little bit, because I believe that he found Aaron Lewis, like he actually found Stain and kind of gave them the deal, and Stain
totally did.
Stain, you know what I'm saying, kind of went on, and we could talk about the same thing when Stain first started their album versus to where they are now, or a couple of years ago. You know, that was a good progression, though, but they had to come out of that dark and heavy and grungy sound to you know, not be depressed. And I know he talks about that a lot, too, of just being able to write a good song and not be depressed, or not being thinking about killing yourself or something like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Oh,
people, you know what I'm
See,
saying? Because people grow
yeah,
up, they get families
you know,
and stuff. He's not thinking about killing himself anymore. So you got to write something beautiful, you know? Songs about his kids and wife and
man,
stuff.
I'm trying to get, you know, like my daughter, you know, Abby, I'm trying to get her, you know, to listen to. I'm trying to help her find Christian things. And who's the name of the rapper? He's a white guy. He's a rapper. He's Christian.
KJ52?
Huh? NF. No, NF.
Oh, NF. Okay, I'm finna say, dude, you
yeah.
going back too far with KJ, but yeah, NF, no doubt. NF is up there, dude.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she loves NF, you know, but I can't, like, I haven't searched new Christian rock, and I have no idea who's even out there anymore. Is any of it any good?
Okay.
Them?
Okay, so this is what I was going to tell Andrew, and I'll tell you as well, but I'm definitely going to bring this up the next time I have him on. But there's a band out. It's a Christian metal band. You got to check them out, dude. Trust me. So it's a band called Silent Planet, and dude, the vocals are eerily similar to Andrew Schwab, old Andrew Schwab, and Aaron Wise from the band Me Without You. So if those two got together and had a baby, this guy from Silent Planet, it's a guy named Garrett Russell. I actually had him on the podcast, dude. You got to check out. He's got a song called Panic Room. Everybody listening, if you haven't heard Silent Planet, they got a song called Panic Room. Go and listen to that, especially if you're a Project 86 fan and you haven't heard of those guys. Trust me, check them out. Good stuff. He sounds just like him. And actually, when I had him on the podcast, I asked him if he had ever heard of Project 86. I mean, you're doing Christian rock, you're doing Christian metal. He said he'd never even heard of Project 86. He didn't even know who Andrew Schwab was, you know. And he's a young guy. It's a young guy. But those guys are putting in work, man. They're really good stuff.
I got it right here, man. Here we go. That is pretty good, man.
Yeah, dude, because he does like the.
I listened to him as soon as you said that.
Dude, he does like the yelling.
That is good stuff.
Dude, that's a great album. Good stuff, man. That's a great album. I had him on the show too. So if you guys want to go back and listen to that interview, Garrett Russell from Silent Planet, go to the website, check that out as well on iTunes and all that. So,
dude, the new Norma Jean. You know, I told you about that. And your guy from Deftones, say his name.
Chino Marino.
Yeah, Chino Marino. I sound terrible now. Okay, yeah, but he did that album with Norma Jean, and man, it is really,
he was the
really
engineer
good.
And helped produce it and stuff. Yeah, it is good, man. It is good.
So Norma Jean's still doing some good stuff. So they've come a long way from Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste, man. That was the song of my teenage years right there. That Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste was
that's good stuff, man.
With the glaze in your stare, dude. Yeah, that was the song that raised me. Well, when I found Norma Jean, I was like, "This is it. This is it. This is the winner."
Like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah,
dude, that's a good song, man.
He laid emeralds in her eyes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, and you know what?
Emeralds in her eyes.
When it comes to that, I'm actually a member of the Bad Christian podcast. I think I've told you, but it's the band Emery. They have their own podcast and they have they have their own group and stuff. And I think Emery came a little bit later than these bands, but Emery kind of made their mark on the Christian metal scene. And
they were right there at the tail end of it being, because you know, like here in Mobile, man, the mob town scene. It just seemed like bands so there were some bands who came on the tail end of that. They were just a little too late to really get into what was going on.
Yep.
You know, because between us and Pensacola, man, there were shows every weekend.
And dude, there were
so many good bands out there.
Dude, one of the best ones, man, because I'm going back listening to the first Still Remains album, the EP,
oh, God, yes.
and the Haste Today EP. Both of those EPs, and then we actually booked them in Pensacola and got to shake hands and eat dinner with those guys and seen them before they,
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying, before they blew up, dude. You remember that? That was so awesome.
Yeah, I totally remember those days. Man, I remember, what was the name of that cafe over there that we...
End of the Line Cafe. End of the Line Cafe.
End of the Line Cafe.
I want to...
You know what I loved about the Mobile?
I'm just thinking of all this crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, dude, we lived it up, man. We did. But I remember the fights we used to have between the Pensacola kids and the Mobtown kids.
Yeah,
because
gang
they
activity.
were hardcore fighters and we were still moshing.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. we would be trying to mosh, and they would jump in there and want a ninja fight, and we'd be wanting to fight with them because we were still moshing, and they wanted to get in there and start throwing kicks and stuff like that.
That kind of brings up a whole thing to the discussion too, because we were there in those early years of the hardcore dancing and stuff when nobody knew what it was, right? And because a lot of that music got big in the Christian hardcore scene, that kind of because like you know what I'm saying, the bands like Under Oath, the bands like Haste Today, As I Lay Dying, and Norma Jean were the ones to blow up in that genre before it kind of went mainstream, and mainstream guys started kind of copying what the Christian guys were doing, right? And then
that's exactly what I kind of felt like, you know, because I mean the Christian hardcore scene was the best music, you know. I mean, My Beloved and Under Oath. I mean, those bands set such a standard. And I have no idea how far out it went. Yeah. But it seems like it's, you know, the Christian hardcore bands, you can't mimic them. This is us sounding like a couple of old guys is what we're doing.
We got people in the chat room who are dropping names too, brother. Adam Starseed just says he's talking about Zayo, man. Zayo's still around. Zayo was a good band, brother. Yeah. I remember the first time, because I used to go to the Christian bookstores, and they would have the CDs opened already. You take the CDs and put them in. You can sample them, the CDs, before you bought them.
I remember
this was like in early 2000s. Yeah, I remember and we go there on a Friday night, bunch of Christians hanging out in a music store, drinking coffee, listening to Christian metal, and trying to find new bands. This was before the internet totally blew up. And I remember...
before the internet ruined everything, man, because you used to be able to go out and you meet, and people would bring their CDs. They would find bands, and they would
in the parking lot,
them, you know. And now, and now these kids don't even leave their bedrooms. They sit there and FaceTime each other, and they talk about what's on 97.5. And I'm like, oh God, this is terrible, man. We used to actually go out and meet other people. This is how you found out about other bands,
dude. I met a lot of cool people, and I'm friends with a lot of people to this day from meeting them at a show, right? Like going to a hardcore show, like a local show, and meeting somebody and stuff. And I was going to say, when kind of before we get too far removed from that topic, the whole Christian hardcore thing, how it blew up in the Christian scene first. Mind you that everybody was slam dancing and moshing, right? But as far as like the dancing, where they had like an art form to hardcore dancing, right? That kind of blew up in the Christian scene first. And then whenever we were all into it, we would do it as an art form. Many of us did it almost as worship to God, right? Just getting by yourself, doing this like aggressive, you know, I think the scriptures even say that King David danced violently before the Lord, right? So people would do this and do it as an act of worship. And if you hit somebody, it was an accident. You say, "Oh, my bad, bro." You give them a hug. "Hey, man, cool. You know, what's your name, bro?" Give them a hug, and then you go back to what you're doing. But then when it started blowing up in the secular realms, and the secular guys started coming over with the secular bands, and they would come to the Christian shows because it blew up in the Christian scene first. And then when we would do the hardcore dancing, people would be almost, like I said, worshiping. You get punched in the face. These guys trying to fight you at a concert. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because they're doing it, and they're violent. They want to start a fight. And it's like, it totally like, hold on, I'm sorry, bro. And they're like, F you, man. Like, oh, wow, this is a whole nother, this was weird. I remember this little guy over in Pensacola at the End of the Line Cafe. We went there. It was me, Jesse, Josh Curry. I'm not sure if you were there, but there was a little guy. He ran up and he did a cartwheel, and he kicked Josh Curry in the face with both of his feet. And Josh pulled him to the side after the band. He's like, "Hey, bro, yeah, man, that little move you did, you kicked me in the mouth." And he looked at him and said, "Play with fire, get burned, bro," and walked off. And I was like, that's weird. It's just awkward, man. And we weren't used to that. We were a bunch of church boys, man, going to the bars and stuff to go hear. We were going to hear Christian hardcore bands at bar rooms, right?
Yeah, that's why I quit getting in the pit, man, because I got hit to me.
Man,
this ain't working no more,
dude,
man.
we brought Phil to a show over in Pensacola. Under Oath was supposed to be playing, and I think you might have came, Dave. I don't know how many shows you were at.
No,
you had a bunch of them.
I've never seen Under Oath.
Okay, well, that was the thing. Under Oath was supposed to be playing, but they never showed up.
Oh yeah,
was you there?
I do remember that. Yeah, I
Okay.
do remember that. They were supposed to play and they never showed up. I do remember that. I was
Yeah.
there for that one.
But there was a Zayo.
It's like 15 years ago.
Exactly, I know. There was a Zayo side project there. I think the guitarist from Zayo and the bassist had another band. And then there's a band called Love Drug. And we don't remember because they weren't big, but Ann Berlin played that night before Ann Berlin blew up. And they were a big Christian
I do
band.
remember that.
Remember that?
I remember Amberlin. Yeah, I
But
remember Amberlin.
Phil got in the mosh pit there at the bar. We all got in it, but those guys started getting violent, trying to start fights. So we kindly moved out the way and let them have the floor. We're not coming there to fight. And so Phil stayed in there. It's crazy metal Phil, right? One man mosh pit. Phil's in there dancing, running in circles and jumping around. And Phil was getting punched in the head. Like they were punching him and stuff, like taking swings at him. I'm like, Phil, get out the mosh pit, man. You're getting hit. They're trying to punch you. He said, no. This is supposed to happen. It's a mosh pit. I said, bro, they're trying to hit you on purpose, man. You got to get out of there, dude. You know, he's like, no, what? This is a mosh pit.
Phil.
It happens. I was like, bro, you got to get out of there.
Dude, I'd get so I got mad, dude. It became the whole Mobile scene versus Pensacola scene, and they were hardcore kids and we were metalheads, and
Yeah.
and we called them the Hot Topic kids. That's what ultimately changed a lot of things. They were the Hot Topic kids, and we were still making our own clothes because we were legit.
Yeah.
And so this separation, man. But yeah, man, that whole scene, man. That back the two, like from when I was like 18, I'm 35 now, but from when I was like 18 up to about, I don't know, maybe late 20s, maybe 28, 29, man, I lived to go out and see bands play. That's all we did. Every weekend we were in Mississippi, we were over in Pensacola, we were in Mobile, we were just anywhere there was a band playing, we were going and seeing them.
And let's don't bring up
we'll
Skillet
never get
before they got super big.
How,
we would we would drive like 4
guys
hours to go
pursue
see
Skillet,
Skillet,
crazy.
man. Me and my
What's
wife.
funny, man, I tell my daughter, Ed, because she loves the song Monster.
Yeah.
Is that one of their songs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she loves that song. And I tell her, yeah, Derek and Aaron went and followed them around and stalked them, basically. And because you guys straight up stalked Skillet for like
Before
a long
they got big.
time. I remember they played in Daphne. That's before they got big. And so now they're just huge. And,
Some other bands like
but
Bleach. Remember
still,
we seen Bleach a couple
Oh
times.
yeah. Bleach, Reliant K, and Patch 217. Rambo Skating Ring, Saraland.
Yeah, a little skating ring, man. Yeah, Reliant K, which got
and that was,
superstardom, right? Reliant K blew up.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. They got really big for a little while.
Yeah.
So are they still around? They're not around anymore.
I don't know. He's probably doing other stuff. I think he was doing some stuff with Owl City. I know they did a song together, but I think he did more. Some of the other names that are being dropped in the chat room, Rackets and Drapes. Does that ring any bells to you, David? Rackets and Drapes
never heard
was
of that.
and the only reason I know who Rackets and Drapes are was because I used to get the Christian magazine HM. I think it was Heaven's Metal or Hard Music. I think it was kind of back and forth about what it stood for or whatever. And Rackets and Drapes was always in there, and they were kind of like the Christian Marilyn Manson. They wore makeup and wore like dresses and stuff, and they were like totally like Manson knockoff or whatever. But one thing about the HM magazine back in the day, which like every month they put out a new issue, and we went to the Christian bookstore to get it. In the back of every episode of every issue, they had
magazine.
issue magazine. They had an interview with a secular band, and they would ask the secular bands all about their music, their influences, blah 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 blah. And then at the end, like the last 3 or 4 questions, it was about their faith. You know what I'm saying? They were asking about their faith in Jesus. Who do they think Jesus is? And that was really cool to look in there and see that they had an interview with, I think Cold Chamber was in one of those magazines. And they're asking them,
that was your band right there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Who do you think Jesus is? What does he mean to you? Have you ever heard the gospel? You know what I'm saying? And they would like have these secular bands on and essentially explain the gospel to them, right? And they would do it every issue. There was an interview with a secular band, and it's kind of reminiscent of what I do. I reach out to a lot of secular people. A lot of I have secular artists on. I have people who don't believe in Jesus, and I have to wonder if they've ever heard of Jesus. So I feel like that's my job, and you know what I'm saying, my responsibility. So it's very reminiscent about what I'm doing now, man. That's pretty cool to see those ties and connections there, you know?
You should reach out to Katy Perry and ask her what's up with her and her belief in God.
Man, you know what? Katy Perry though, man. There was a time where I was just like, every time I heard Katy Perry recently, I'd want to pray for her, and I just start praying. I start interceding for her, man. Because early on, listening to Christian music, Christian radio, 24/7. I remember when we got born again, when you got in our car and you went to change the radio station to put it on a different dial. You know how you program each station. Every single button was programmed to our local Christian radio station, and every one you changed went straight to that Christian station. But they used to play a girl by the name of Katie Hudson back in the early 2000s, and one of the most anointed songs that was played on that station was by a girl named Katie Hudson, and the song was called "Don't Worry." Look it up, "Don't Worry" by Katie Hudson. Katie Hudson. I used to call and request it every day at lunch. They had a request hour every day. I would call at lunch and say, "Can you play 'Don't Worry' by Katie Hudson?" And I called one day, and the guy told me it was Kenny from Power 88. He said, "Well, we don't play her anymore." He said, "Well, we don't play her anymore." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, she changed her name, and she's doing secular music now, and we don't play her music anymore." And then it had been like 2 years had passed or so. And then even after her first single, "I Kissed a Girl," right? Even after that, I still didn't even know that it was her. But come to find out, I watched the CNN interview, or like a Dateline interview or whatever, with Katy Perry, and she talked about her early Christian roots, and she was a Christian singer by the name of Katie Hudson. And I was like, oh man, that's Katy Perry is Katie Hudson. And I was like, oh my God, like she was an anointed worship singer. And then her first album is about like kissing girls and liking and promoting, you know what I'm saying, that lifestyle and stuff, man. And then, but to say where she's at, you said about reaching out to her, see where she's at. She just did a very interesting interview. There's this thing where you go on and you talk to like a doctor, like a guru. I think Vice puts it out. I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of people do it, and they film them just talking to this counselor guru guy, and she starts breaking down, man, about like having multiple personalities and wanting to go back to being Catherine, you know, before the fame, before that, and just missing the church, missing singing in church. It's sad, man. So I just encourage everybody who knows anything, and there's a bunch of messages in the chat room talking about MK Ultra and mind control and all the stuff that you have to get into, like pacts with the devil and stuff. There's all that Illuminati rituals, weird stuff that goes on in the entertainment business, man. So be praying for that girl, man. She has a call on her life, dude, and it's obvious, man.
I mean, it's, you know that if she ever had an actual experience with God, if she ever had a move of the Holy Spirit happen in her life, she will never be able to truly deny it. You know, and I've seen what you're talking about. I've seen, you know, I've heard some of her recent music, and I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah, man, There's some of it comes out in her music.
You can hear it, man. But to turn away from that success, to give up that lifestyle is something that is almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how? I mean, look at Head from Korn. You know, Brian Willis. He had a breaking point that he finally got to where he had to. That's what she's going to have. You know, I mean, it's going to have to be, you know, something's going to have to happen. Now, I tell you one thing: if God really wants that girl, He's going to reach out there and He's going to pull her back. You know, we have free will.
Yeah,
we have free will as Christians, but when God really wants His children, when He decides that you're His, He'll reach out there and grab you. And he'll pull you back.
Yep.
You know, and it's
did
not
it to me, man.
Easy, and it's not going to be fun.
He did it to
He's
me.
done it to me.
You know
man.
what though?
I've hit that rock bottom.
And that's the weird thing I don't understand. And maybe it's because they don't know that there's another way, that there's an option, and maybe that's why we're supposed to tell people about Christ and about the gospel and what the true meaning of the cross is, you know. But there is a lot of people in the entertainment business who got born again, who hit rock bottom, and they turned to Jesus. And even in the music business. What's the Baldwin guy? Was it it wasn't.
There's a few of those.
Yeah, it was the
Steve
Baldwin brother.
Baldwin.
I forget which one,
The
but
Baldwin brothers.
Alice Cooper, he's a born again believer. He's outspoken about his faith. Alice Cooper. One of my big ones early on, Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. He's an outspoken believer. There's a lot of people, man. There's a whole bunch of them who have hit rock bottom and come to this place of calling out to God. But what I was going to say is I don't get it to where how people hit rock bottom and they stay there. You know what I'm saying? And they don't know what to do. Or like I said, I think it's, maybe they don't know what to do, like how to get up from there or something.
Well, man, I don't know this for a fact, but I can imagine if you're like a Katy Perry, man, and you want to go back, imagine the threats that come out against you.
I'm sure she signed contracts where she can't, man. Like 15-year contracts or something.
I've heard there's an actor, and I cannot remember his name, but he's a famous actor. Maybe I can look the story up. I'll let you know later. But he doesn't live in Hollywood, and he came out and he said Hollywood is the most poisonous place there is.
Oh yeah.
He said I won't live there. It is evil. It is. I'm a big Marilyn Monroe fan. I'm a huge Marilyn Monroe fan. Yeah. I fully believe that.
Oh yeah.
She got sucked in to taking all these pills, and they said, well, you do this and you'll take these pills and you do. She's just I've read in her story a lot. I'm a big Marilyn Monroe fan, but man, they made her. They made Marilyn Monroe because they fed her so much medicine and so much drugs, and they really screwed her up, and that's what happens in Hollywood. I've looked into it a whole lot. This is far from metal talk. I know we're going to get back to that in a second, but there's poison there. The devil has got his hand in that. That lifestyle, that lavish. You make all the money, man. You sell your soul to the devil, and you'll be rich on this side of heaven. And it's all about chasing earthly gain.
Yep.
It's all about chasing earthly gain, and it's a trick of the devil. I have to deal with it myself because, like, me and my wife are having some financial trouble, and it's all I can do to not try to go out there and make all the money I can.
Yeah.
But I gotta remember that, okay, God's got a plan for me, and I just started a new job 2 weeks ago, and I felt like God called me to this job. And right now, things are not going great. We've had trucks broke down. I haven't been able to run. I'm not working tomorrow, unfortunately. I'm off tomorrow, and that's money out of my pocket, But I'm just feeling like if I'll just hang on, something's going to happen. God's going to take care of me.
He will. He'll definitely do that. He'll definitely, and I'll speak for God, he'll definitely take care of you, David. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have no doubt about that. So,
David, did you have another point? You go ahead.
Oh, I was going to share one more metal moment, and then I was going to probably jump off and say something else. But, man, you remember Blindside?
Yes.
Band, one of my favorite bands. Get back to metal for a second. Man, one of my favorite all time. I was posting stuff about them the other day, started looking them up again. I haven't bought the album on iTunes yet, but I'm fixing to buy Silence.
Yes.
And it was Silence and another one. They had two albums back to back. But man,
I remember
me and Tyson were Out of Burning Fire. Yes. And me and Tyson were at Schwab's Furnace in Birmingham, front center. And the lead singer winds up standing on our shoulders with his hand on our head, balancing himself. Yeah, Christian, and he's on mine and Tyson's shoulder. He's got his hand on top of our head, and he's screaming right in my ear because he got the microphone right there by my head, and he's just going for it. That was one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to, shows, whatever, man. Because what's funny is POD was the main act. Yeah,
He said they put on a better show.
They played before POD. I didn't watch. I came to see Blindside. As much as a POD fan as I was, I was just a colossal Blindside fan.
Oh, yeah.
So me and Tyson, we get through watching Blindside. We cut to the back. We go stand in the back. When POD comes on next, they put on an amazing show because they're great. But man, I was there to see Blindside, and I wish that they could have stuck around a little bit longer. Because you listen to some of their old music. Oh my goodness, they were good.
Yeah, the old stuff.
One of the best Christian metal bands out there. Swedish. They were from Sweden.
I know, right?
That makes them twice as cool. So, Just a quick story right there.
Yeah, dude, Blindside is awesome,
old
man.
days, man.
Dude, Blindside is awesome. I remember when we first found out about them, and like we thought we were on top of our Christian metal game too. Me and my wife, right? We listened to Project, we listened to PAX, anything we could find that was Christian metal, like we had it, right? And so we went to this youth group out in West Mobile, and everybody was cool there. We were like, we're going to start helping with the youth and stuff. Some friends hooked it up. We went out to the youth group. We met with the youth pastor and stuff. Had a meeting with him, and everything. And then at the end of service, dude, they started playing Blindside, and we're listening. We're like, who is this? Is this Incubus? Like, what are y'all playing up here? What is this? At the church, they're like, no, dude, this is Blindside. Silence, the new album just came out. We're like, what is this? And dude, we were blown away. We were in the car. We went to Walmart that night, and it was a late youth service. And we got to Walmart almost like at 12 o'clock at night. And we went in there, and we found Blindside Silence right after it came out in Walmart. And we bought that album, dude. Yeah. And that is a phenomenal album, dude. And that's an album where
it had scratches in it.
And you don't have to skip a track.
No, you don't.
You can listen to the whole album on that one. Roll. Yep.
God, yes. Dude, I scratched it. I played that CD until it had scratches on it, and I don't know if I ever replaced it or not. I wore that CD flat out. It never came out of my CD player.
That's a great album,
I
man.
just completely killed that album. I played it back to back. What's funny is here at the house the other day, I hop on YouTube. I don't know what made me think of Blindside, but I thought of them. When I'm here by myself and my wife's gone and my daughter's not around, I'll crank it up, man. I'm thinking, y'all ain't here to tell me this music's stupid, because they have that's not very good,
Yeah.
I'm like, shut up, you don't know anything. But so
I get it too, bro. Hey, we're in the same boat. I get it too, man.
Yeah, I just turn it up. I'm like, nobody's here but me. I'm blasting, I'm blowing the walls out with some Blindside right now, and I totally kill it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just great. Love some old school Blindside, some Beloved, man. Just can't get past those old Christian metal bands from the 2000s that ruled the world.
Some of the
back when life was good.
Yeah. Well, life is still good, but it just that nostalgia. It makes you remember when you didn't have any bills, put it that way. And it was kind of, you wasn't worried about what you were doing tomorrow. You're just going to wake up and see what's on TV and stuff like that, man.
Man.
So some of the other names that were dropped, and there's a couple, Living Sacrifice, Stave Saker, man, and there's so many stories we could go into about these bands. Like Living Sacrifice, the guitarist, I believe it is one of the guitarists, Rocky, started the band Evanescence with Amy Lee, right?
Lord!
And whenever they came out, everybody thought that was a Christian band, right? Because the Christian stores were promoting it. Maybe because Rocky was in there. But I think the other Christian connection they had was Paul McCoy from 12 Stones was on the first single.
Yeah.
Wake me
that
up,
was on the first
wake
single.
me up inside.
Wake me up.
He was on the first single. So you got two different Christians in the band, and the Christian stores started selling it, and I think a lot of their early success was from the Christians. Yeah, but they got kind of big. They got on MTV and stuff, and then they gave a statement: "We're not a Christian band." And then she was cursing on that. She's like, "F that! We're not an effing Christian band. My life is my ministry. We're not a part of any church." And then, like, the Christian stores pulled all the CDs, right? They pulled them all. Another one that was mentioned here is along the very same lines, Chevelle.
Chevelle. I was fixing them. Now listen, I still love Chevelle.
Oh, dude.
Still play Chevelle
I know,
all the
right?
time. I've seen them at Bayfest, and man, they put on just with those three guys, man.
Yeah,
just
three brothers. Yeah.
They put on some of the best. I mean, they were amazing. Chevelle, man, when they first came out. I mean, the Red, oh my goodness, dude. It's just, they're still, their music, man, their vocals and everything, I still play them a whole lot.
Yeah, that's good music.
I still love Chevelle.
That's good music.
Are they Christian or not?
No, see, that's what I'm saying.
It's
kind of the same story. They came out on a Christian label. I think it was BEC Recordings, and they were sold in all the Christian bookstores. So the Christian market ate it up, and they promoted. It was clean. There was no cursing, no drug use, no nothing like that. Very symbolic lyrics about life. I don't think they do, but they ended up doing some.
there are positive. Here's my thing. Like, if you're a positive band and you're not particularly air quotations Christian, you know, I'll still listen to you because, like, I think of Killswitch and Killswitch Engaged.
Well, they started out Christian too.
And, you know, but I mean, yeah, and I still listen to them. I still listen to The End of Heartache, that album.
Yes.
You know, that's another album that I bought, and I played it so much that it just got so scratched up I couldn't play anymore. The End of Heartache album was unbelievable, and it was positive. And you may not be able to label it Christian, but there was nothing negative about it. You know, there was positive music, and I could listen to it, and I could get something out of it. You know, you just listen to The End of Heartache, the song, The End of Heartache. Yeah, you could almost say it's a Christian song just because of the lyric. Yeah, just because of the good lyrics. You know. Yeah.
Well, David, we're coming up on the end of the show, man, and just before we leave, man, if you would, tell everybody, just if we can make it short, man, we can have you on for another episode, but tell everybody about your relationship with Jesus, man, what he done for you and how you came into faith with them, and pray for those who are looking for answers, man, and they're on this podcast and they're listening to True Seeker and David talk, man. Tell them a little bit about your relationship with Jesus, man.
Man, you know what? I grew up strange. It almost sounds. No, listen. You can identify with this. God raised me. As weird as that sounds, my relationship with God here, especially here recently, is not based upon a church. I'm reading the Bible. I'm talking to God. I'm getting to know God. I'm learning more. I have picked Romans apart like crazy. Now, I haven't read in about a week because this new job has got me running circles. So I got to make myself a new schedule to make sure I'm sitting down and reading. But man, I have been studying Romans, and I have been picking it to pieces, and I've made so many notes. And I won't go in all of it because it'll take forever. But man, that's what I'm doing. I met God at a very young age, and I know why. And it's because I had a grandmother who prayed and was a powerful soldier of the cross. My grandmother would pray something, and I promise you she could have split the Red Sea just like Moses did. I have that much faith in my grandmother. She was a super Christian. And man, I grew up under that with parents who prayed, who took me to church, you know. And I just knew God from a young age. And I tell you what, I want to get away from me for a second. I can talk about me a lot, man, but I have been looking into atheism lately, you know, and it's becoming more and more of a thing where people simply don't know who God is. They simply don't know who God is. And that's what I've been getting into, is just simply studying atheism. I'm on the radio cast, baby, yeah? Okay. Well, I'll go look. It's my daughter, guy, sorry. It might be, baby, just go outside. But there, you know, I've been looking at that lately. People who are just angry with God. And it is simply because they do not know who God is. They don't understand. I hear this all the time. I've never heard God speak to me. I've never heard the voice of God. You have an entire Bible slam full of the voice of God. When Jesus was in the desert and he was dealing with Satan himself, he quoted Scripture. If it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us. We should know Scripture. If you're a person who is angry with God, who just you're dabbling, maybe I don't know who God is, I don't believe in this. That's because the internet is trying to explain to you who God is. Media is trying to explain to you who God is. We try to put God inside our head like he's actually going to fit there. Yeah. Man, we have to battle that. Quit trying to act like God's going to fit inside a box on your shelf. God is so much bigger. You know, this is my cry to atheists. Step back. Quit listening to everybody. Read the Bible. I promise you, if you will read the Bible and you will begin to pray, that God reveals himself to you and you're reading that Bible and you're studying, you get away from all the social media and all the anger that's out there, God will show up. He's not a genie. You're not going to rub a bottle and he's going to pop. That's what people want. They give me a sign. Show me a sign. Well, do you know what? Jesus was hanging on the cross, and they were saying, if you're the Son of God, then come off that cross. They wanted a sign then. Nothing's changed. It's exactly the same. They still want signs. People are still crying out, show me a sign. Well, they had God right in front of them and still wanted a sign. So, so you're not going to get that. You're not going to get a sign. God's not going to show up in your bedroom and say, I'm God. It's not going to happen. They had Jesus, the Son of God, right in front of them and still didn't believe. It's not going to work. My cry, my prayer, open your Bible. Find some good, solid teaching. I love Ravi Zacharias. I love David Jeremiah. I love Chuck Swindoll. There are great preachers out there. Now, don't base your entire belief on a preacher. Don't base your entire belief on a church, because they're going to let you down at some point, but God will never, ever let you down. Open your Bible, begin to pray, begin to seek God.
Amen.
He will show himself to you, but you have to look in the right places, not in social media, not in your friends, not on Facebook, not on Twitter, not on YouTube. Get in the Bible. Get a good old-fashioned King James or New King James. I read New King James. Get in there and learn about God.
Amen. The scripture says in the book of Acts, they want to know, who Jesus is for. What, will God reveal himself to me? The book of Acts says that God is willing to deal with all men, whoever they are, as long as they will repent, as long as they will turn from their sins. So I don't care who you are. If you want to know who God is and you don't believe, you want proof, here's the proof: a life transformed. I'll tell you this, like David said, open that Bible, say, God, if you're real, get by yourself and really mean it. Don't do it as like a robot. But if you really want to know, you can really find out who God is. Get by yourself, open them scriptures, and ask God, if you're real, if you love me, if you are who these guys on this podcast say you are, I'm asking you to show yourself to me. If you show yourself to me, I'll believe in you, and I guarantee you he will. He'll reveal himself to you through his love, through the person of Jesus and what he did on the cross for us, for all of us. And we all are sinners in need of a Savior. We're all sinners who have come short of the glory of God. So right now, if that's you, if you're looking, or if you're a Christian and you believe and you just need some encouragement, I'm going to pray for you right now, and I just want you to receive it. The Bible says that the prayer of the righteous availeth much. We are men of prayer. We believe in the power of prayer. God, I thank you for each and every person who's listening right now, Lord. I pray that for those who don't know you, that you'll just reveal yourself to them, God. Pour out your spirit upon them, because, Lord, you said that you wanted to pour out your spirit on all flesh, Lord. So I pray right now, God, for that person listening, God, that you'll touch them in the depths of their soul, Lord, from the top of their head to the soles of their feet. They say they feel this tingling sensation, Lord. Let them feel your fire, Lord, even more right now, of your love, of your grace, and of your mercy. Thank you for the cross, Lord. I thank you that Jesus died in our place so that we wouldn't have to. I thank you that he died so that we might live, Lord. I bless your holy name. I just ask you, Lord, for the Christian out there who's struggling with their faith and what to believe in. And they just have so many questions, and they need answers. They need reassurance that this isn't fake, just isn't a game, or this is just playing church. God, I just pray that you recapture their heart. Bring them back to the place where they started. In Jesus' mighty name, power, and Holy Ghost, and fire right now. In Jesus' name. God, you know their thoughts. You know their burdens. You know their struggles, God. I thank you for your grace and your peace. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Thanks for hanging out with me, Dave. It was fun, brother. And I want to get you on so we could because there's a bunch of stuff. And we did a show, and it's still archived, where you called in at the end. But I want to do a full show dedicated to you, where we go into some of the experiences that you've had, because we love to address the spirit realm on this show, man. We love to talk about angels and demons.
Man, the biggest lie that Satan tells people, this is among his bigger lies. If you have experienced spiritual things, If you have seen demons, the first thing Satan's going to tell you is you better not tell anybody. You better not say anything.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to think you're crazy if you tell them. That's the first thing he tells you. He wants to intimidate you. Demons. He wants to intimidate you. He wants to scare you, and then he wants to put you in a corner and say you're by yourself in this. No one else is going through this besides you. That is the biggest lie of the enemy. You expose him. For one thing, you have to realize Satan has no power over us. God has power. God is the ultimate authority. You plead the blood of Jesus Christ, and hell's gates tremble. It is the biggest lie of the enemy to say you're by yourself and you're going through this alone. You're not. It's not talked about because of that. It's not addressed because Satan's lying to you saying you're by yourself. You're not by yourself. There is power in the name of Jesus Christ, and we'll address that soon.
That's good, man. Dude, we're going to do a whole show dedicated to some of the experiences that you had because I know them. So we're going to go into that. I'm going to pick your brain. We're going to talk about angels. We're going to talk about demons, and we're going to talk about struggles. So we're going to do that. Let's set that up maybe sometime this week, man, when you get some free time. And I'm sure people, with that little plug where you just said that gave me chills. So I'm sure the people listening would love to hear your story, man. We're going to have you on the podcast soon.
We'll do it, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming on, brother. I'll talk with you soon.
Talk with you later, man.
David McHenry, ladies and gentlemen. Man, this was a good show. I got to talk to somebody who has been, I don't like to use the word idol, but he's been an inspiration in my life. Musically, spiritually, as far as the faith, artistically, just to be different and be okay with that. Man, just a lot of stuff in the life of Andrew Schwab. I remember I used to read articles years ago about how they weren't Christian enough, and he didn't say Jesus enough in his music. And so now it feels like I'm in a similar boat. I get those comments from the Christian people as well. Like, you don't say Jesus enough in your music. Your music is touching on other stuff. I don't know what you're talking about. I have to look up what you're talking about. Those type of things. And so I learned from the best, man. Andrew Schwab early on. Blame him. Don't blame me. But yeah, it was such a blessing to talk to that guy, man. For everybody who is listening to this or watching this on YouTube, if you want, go to iTunes, subscribe to us there. There you'll be able to download all the MP3 versions of all of the episodes, and you'll be notified as soon as one's uploaded. So be sure to do that. And for those of you who want to support what we're doing, so much time and effort and energy and money and finances and things go into what I'm doing with the podcast and with the music as well. I'm now doing this full time. So if you would like to support what I'm doing and get rewards, get perks, I have unreleased music that only the supporters get. So you can go head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeeker. If you head over there, you get access to a bunch of unreleased music. Every time I finish a song, I upload it and I put it on Patreon. And so people are always asking me, Truth Seeker, when you're coming out with new music? It's already up. It's on Patreon. So Patreon is the perfect model for people who want to support independent creators to do what we're doing full time, and you want to hear more music. Just like Andrew said earlier, he said if you want to hear new music, if you want to hear a new album, then support it. Help us make it happen, man. Because the music industry changed. I didn't get the chance to ask him about that, but the music industry changed from being supported and promoted by a huge label, a huge finances and things like that. It takes a lot of money to do what we're doing. It's changed. They don't have that support anymore. It takes a lot of money to invest in what they're doing and then to promote it, and then for people just to go online and download their album for free, to get it on a torrent site. So patreon.com/TruthSeeker at any level of giving. Like I said, I got 14,000 fans on Facebook. $1 a month, man. That would be so much. We could do above and beyond anything that we wanted to do for anything. But all of you guys help. So over there, essentially what we have a few people who are doing a lot. I have some close friends over there who believe in what I'm doing. Some people over there are supporting at they're making sacrificial gifts because they believe in the work that me and my family are doing. So Awesome, man. I'm reading the comments here. Grim, what's up, brother? Shout out, man. Kanto, man, thanks for holding down the chat room over there, brother. Thanks for I made you an admin, brother, and sometimes you gotta filter through. So if you guys get blocked, it ain't me, it's Kanto. He did it. Or people on there spamming, people on there talking crazy stuff, Kanto will get you, man. He has my permission to do that. So yeah, I love each and every one of you guys. Thanks for supporting what we're doing. We got a lot more shows planned for you guys, so stay tuned. Peace and blessings, y'all.
Your way is so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the Truth Seeker podcast, head over to truthseeker.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/truthseeker.